Welcome to The Preferred List, a podcast about the people behind the best wedding days. I'm James, a wedding filmmaker. I've spent years in the industry working alongside incredible vendors, and this show is all about real conversations with the ones who make it happen. Whether you're a vendor or a couple, you'll get honest insight, good stories, and maybe a little inspiration along the way. Let's meet today's wedding vendor. Hey Ashley, how's it going?
Hey James, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have Ashley on. She runs RSVP Love. She does custom stationery. We're going to get into all that. We're going to learn what a stationer is. There's an R in there, stationer. I'm so excited because your stuff is just so good. Every time I see it on Instagram, I'm like, yep, love it.
Thank you. That means so much.
Yeah. But before we do, we are here at the Booking House. The Booking House is an industrial, modern, chic wedding and event space in Mannheim, PA, rich with character and history. It was originally built in 1884 as the Old General Cigar Company warehouse. The venue blends historic charm with contemporary style across 15,000 square feet. And it's centrally located in an easy drive from Philadelphia, Westchester, New Jersey, Maryland, and even New York City in just under 3 hours, serving both local couples and destination celebrations. It's perfect for intimate gatherings and even large gatherings of up to 250 guests. The Booking House offers separate spaces for your ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception, all on one property. It's open year-round, and their newly added atrium brings an open-air feel without the weather worries, and an experienced, caring team providing in-house bartending and coordinating. They're dedicated to making every detail seamless so you can enjoy an unforgettable day. And I will say, it's just so fun to meet other vendors in venue spaces that are close by that we love working at. And Ashley, we've been trying to get you on the podcast for a minute now.
For a minute. We had summer and start of school.
I know. And then I reached out and you're like, sorry, I'm busy for like a month and a half. And I was like, okay, cool. We'll get this. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. I promise.
We have like weird wedding season compared to everybody else sometimes.
Yeah. No, I get that. So tell me about RSVP Love. Where did this whole stationer thing start for you?
Right. So I went to school for graphic design many moons ago, over 20 years ago. So while I was in school for graphic design, trying to figure out which segue of design I would go down, I actually had a cousin that was getting married, and she was like, "Hey, you're in school for design. Can you make our wedding programs?" And I was like, "Of course I can. Like, I've done that so many times." Um, did not know what I was doing at all. In fact, it's kind of a funny story. They picked this like really beautiful paper that I found at the boutique Michael's. I don't know if you've heard of it, you know,
the
classy paper. And it was this really beautiful shimmer, and I had a printer at the time, and I start printing these programs off. Well, the ink would not like adhere to the paper. So I had like 150 programs spread out on my apartment floor, just praying that they would dry in time for the wedding.
Gosh.
You
could like barely like walk through.
Exactly. I was like, page 1, page 3 is over here. Like, so yeah. And I still chose it even after that disaster. And
you probably have a nicer printer, I'm assuming.
Yes. It goes a lot smoother now. Yeah. But, so that kind of gave me the bug. I was also engaged at the time to my high school sweetheart. So we were planning our wedding and kind of going through the motions of wedding planning. There's no like where to really get invitations. There were like some small shops that you would go, and they'd have these huge books, and you would look through the books, and nothing was jumping out at me. And I'm pretty sure it was my mom who was like, "You could obviously do this."
Yeah.
So I was like, right. So I ended up creating all of our wedding stationery, and just kind of going from there. And over the years, it just kind of evolved from doing things for relatives or friends and friends of friends, and taking a big leap of faith at one point. So it's funny because a lot of people are like, well, what is a stationer? And I always say it's stationary with an E. Stationary with an A means you're standing in one place. Stationary with an E is paper.
I wouldn't know any different because I'm terrible at spelling.
We'll just blame it on autocorrect when it's wrong. But that is like fully encompassing for me, from everything from save the dates to actually invitations, different printing methods, different papers, doing the assembly, mailing, all the way to day of print. And that can be anything from those programs
Yeah.
to large seating chart installations that we do on our laser printer. So all sorts of fun stuff. Get to use with different materials. It's not all paper anymore.
So I'm curious, like when you were in your apartment with those like 150, maybe there was like 300 pieces of paper just like
Yeah.
scattered everywhere. Were you sitting in that moment like, yeah, I could see myself 20 years later, like still doing this? Or was it just like, what have I gotten myself into? Or maybe it's some of both.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. What did I get myself into? But just the process for me, I think is what is continually drives me to stay in this industry is getting to work with couples. And if it's something small like programs where I'm taking that off of their plate or their save the dates or going to the post office for them, it's the process for me that makes it all worth it. So even in those situations where I'm just like, what did I get myself
Yeah.
into? How can I figure out how to get out of this? I enjoy the process. So
Yeah, I'd have to imagine. I mean, this is true for everything, but the monotony of like folding 150 like pieces of paper.
so true.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I
Yeah,
love the design, but like this part of it needs to be automated for sure.
my husband, bless his heart, like he has been with me from the very
Professional
beginning.
folder.
Yes, getting paid $0.
Yeah, as the spouses
As the
usually.
spouses
Yeah,
know. Yeah, so it's not for everyone because that sort of thing can get mundane, but also in that is the artisan part of it where it's
yeah,
like these are being crafted by hand, they're not hitting a machine, and there's a lot of love that it's going into the details for you.
yeah. When you're sitting back and you're seeing that, like, unfortunately, you're seeing your finished product a lot of times in someone else's finished product in like photos or videos or something. Um, but I'm curious, like when you're seeing that all put together in that curated flat lay with the florals and everything, like what are you sitting there thinking when you're seeing that kind of all come together for the couple?
Yeah, I wish that people could see how long the process takes.
Yeah,
Even from the initial consultation with couples, like, are we a good fit? Is this what you're looking for? How can I serve you best? To sifting through all their information, all their details, making sure that there's nothing left unturned so their guests are getting the best experience. And then going through that printing process, the assembly process, mailing, praying that they get there through
yeah,
USPS, love hate relationship, but um,
yeah,
and then they're finally there, and it's what is setting the tone for the day, and just seeing that in this one flat lay, it represents the whole vendor team. It's the venue, it's the photographer, it's the videographer, it's the florals, it's jewelry. Everyone is kind of combined into this moment,
yeah,
and I don't take it lightly.
yeah. I mean, because you could very easily be like, I'm just paper,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But there's a lot
exactly.
more to it. And I'm curious, like, is there a way that you found to kind of describe your style specifically?
Yeah, so for my style, I tend to lean to what I call like a classic but modern fine art style. And that's just kind of taking my inspiration from old art. We were just in Canada for a work trip with my husband, and we went to the Royal Museum, and they had some of the Dutch Old Master paintings. And so I'm always pulling inspiration from the old and trying to make it new, and reflect what's going on in the industry, and what's going on for our couples.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's something about an invitation is so classic, is so timeless. And it's that piece of mail that will hopefully never stop receiving.
yeah,
Bills can go away and things like that. But hopefully, when you see an envelope that looks different than the normal mail that you're getting, something sticks out in that. And it
yeah,
just gets guests even more excited for a couple's big day.
yeah. Are there ways that I mean, kind of like laid out where you're kind of getting inspiration from?
Yeah.
how does that affect, things like fonts, textures, um, even the ways that you're kind of bringing colors into the mix too?
Yeah, I think for hopefully all vendors, we can kind of put some of our preferences aside and focus on what our couple is looking for. So occasionally there's things that my couples might lean to that, it wouldn't be my first choice. But I do try and guide them in that process of saying, hey, this sort of texture looks great in this image that you found on
Yeah.
Instagram or something, but in reality, this is what it's going to look like. Or that's what this color is gonna look like.
Gotcha. So it's almost like an in hand, like it might not be what you're thinking it's going to be.
Exactly, exactly. There's a lot of education that comes along the way, and, I know I'm not the only vendor that has to end up doing that,
Yeah.
for our
Yeah.
couples.
I feel like I have to do it a lot too because it's just most couples have not done any video related things.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, the same, like, they probably have never ordered, truly custom paper products.
Right, right,
Right? Like maybe
exactly.
they've ordered like a Christmas card or
Sure.
something off of like Vistaprint or
Yep.
something. But like what you're doing is like truly, truly custom.
Yeah,
When couples are coming to you in that like process, they're inquiring. Sounds like, part of that process is figuring out if you're a good fit.
yeah.
Once you've figured out if you're a good fit, what's that process look like for them to design, the invitation suite or figure out like maybe even just like what products they need from you?
Yeah. So we spend a lot of time digging into their information. I think it kind of surprises couples. They think, oh, I can just jump into the fun stuff, I call it.
Yeah.
The colors, the fonts, the wax seals, the ribbon color, all that stuff. Love it, of course. Um, but one of my number one jobs is to really make sure that we're getting the information that their guests need. That's going to take away the extra text and the extra phone calls from couples. Like, what does casual attire mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. What does that really look like for your event? Each event is so different and unique. So I'm really sifting through that information before we dive into the design process. Um, if couples choose to go the fully custom route, so 2 years ago, I launched a semi custom line, which is something
Oh,
I said
cool.
I would never ever do.
Yeah.
But it's turned out to be a win win for both myself, cutting down on design time, and for couples as well, just have something that's probably a little bit more budget friendly. And that process goes really pretty quickly compared to a fully custom suite. So, custom suites can take about 8 weeks to get through the design process, print, assembly, um, and then a semi-custom line can just be about half that time. So,
Okay.
really depends on when couples are coming to me. The earlier, the better,
I was
always.
gonna ask, like, is there a like preferred, are they basing it off of when they should be sending the invitations out? Is like what timeline does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big misconception with timeline for sending invitations or save the dates. I actually work backwards off of when your wedding date is, but when your final count is due to your venue.
Mm,
So that's different for each venue. That's different for the type of wedding that a couple is having. So whether that's they're having a buffet, they're having a plated meal, or they're just doing a dessert buffet or something in the evening, that all comes into play with their timeline. So I'm really creating something custom for each couple, just kind of based off of those few things. And then I pack in extra time. So RSVPs are, kind of the bane of my existence.
just so funny that your business name has an
Business name.
your business has the bane of your
Yes,
existence
yes, I
built
needed
in.
to incorporate it right alongside the love part,
Yeah, yeah, oh
yeah.
yeah, put them together
The
for sure.
juxtaposition there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I always, try and educate couples, like, no matter how simple you make it, whether now it's an online RSVP or
right.
we put a stamp on the envelope and we make it pretty and we make the check boxes really simple, is people are still gonna hesitate to send that back in, so
Yeah,
let's give you some cushion in your timeline so you're not thinking, "Oh, it's 4 weeks out before the wedding and I need a final count." No, your final count to me is due, like, 8 weeks out.
Yeah.
So giving them that extra time in
Yeah,
timeline.
it even seems like you're kind of building in a little bit of a fail safe on your
Yes.
end of it, even though you're not necessarily like the planner, the coordinator, or someone from the venue.
Absolutely. Yeah, it helps us as well. Just different times of years, depending on the product that we might need to be printing. Print shops are getting backed up. Just takes a little while
Yeah,
longer, so I like to have that cushion of timeline in there. Seating charts are always kind of that big, oh, I can't do it until the last minute. I always tell my couples start doing that as you're making your guest list. Believe it or not, it's going to take off so much pressure those last few weeks of the wedding planning.
yeah.
And as you're getting RSVPs back in, you can start taking them off of your table list and start planning accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've been doing this for a couple years, so you've learned a couple things.
Yes, yes. In the almost 20 years, I grateful to be able to share some of that experience with my couples. I'm trying to approach it where I'm a friend and they can come to me and vent. Weddings are tough.
Yeah,
There's family stuff, there's just those dynamics. Even with wording, they'll say, how do I word this family situation on my invitation? So being there to be a sounding board, educate them, help them with those little details that they weren't thinking about, um, is one of the reasons why I do it.
yeah. No, it's so fun, and it's such a. It could be a crazy time. It could be an easy time. Like you just
Yeah.
never know what couples are kind of like managing
Yeah.
and all of that too. When couples are in that reaching out process, maybe they're just starting the like design process with you. Do you find a lot of them have like a lot of ideas? A lot of them kind of like they have no idea. And if they are on either side of that kind of spectrum of like design knowledge or preferences, like how do you help them kind of figure out what's the best design suite
Yeah.
or products to kind of go with?
Yeah. So it's funny. I think it's usually about half and half of couples. Some will just be like, this is my favorite part. This is what I'm so excited for. Um, I've been planning this in my Pinterest board the longest,
Yeah.
and they're the most excited about this part. And then the other half are like, I have no idea. That's why I hired you. I trust you. Anything you say is golden, which, love that. But, I'm here to create something that's reflecting them as a couple
Yeah.
as well.
As much as the like I trust you is like fun, you're like, but I also want to
Yes,
honor you through this
exactly.
too.
Yes. So that's where that going through that information time is super helpful. I'm asking them questions about their relationship. What do they like to do for fun together? What do they, what is one word that they could use to describe their relationship? And I think they're often taken aback by that. They didn't realize they were going to have so much homework talking to
Yeah.
the stationer. But it really helps me get a sense of who they are as a couple, and then kind of taking that and helping that guide their design process. If it's someone that is really just struggling and doesn't really mind necessarily what it looks like, but still wants it to feel like it's them, then I'm going to pull some of those things. If it's someone that is very, has already had their whole Pinterest board planned out with it, then I can kind of go off of their flow. I allow them to have the art direction a
Yeah.
little bit more, and they feel like they're part of the process, which is really fun too.
Yeah, because I feel like some couples are like they want to be all in the whole time, and some are maybe like, eh,
Right. And some
it's
of their
fine.
schedules, some of their careers just don't allow them to
Yeah.
to do that and to have the time to do that.
Could you kind of demystify a little bit of the difference between, I know we kind of mentioned it before, but like that semi-custom to
Yeah.
that full custom, and even just if you could, for the couples that are listening, like what kind of couple is gonna kind of thrive off of those two different styles of stationery?
Yeah. So a semi-custom is a line of pre-made designs. What I do with my designs is they can still change some things around. So we can still change some colors, we can still change fonts, take a monogram from one design, flip it over to another. Um, so there's a lot less moving pieces in that
Mm,
versus going fully custom. We're starting from scratch. It's a lot more in depth. Um, I want to get the whole vision of what a couple is planning for their day, bringing their personalities into it. And then there's usually additional artwork that's involved. Maybe it's a venue illustration or watercolor. Um, so those things take a lot more time. So the couples that are kind of having a more simple event, I would say, kind of thrive off the semi custom. They want a place where guests can find that information. They maybe have an online QR code that they can respond to. Um, versus the the fully custom is like that's their personality fully shining through,
yeah.
um, and really catered to everything for
Yeah, or
them.
even if they just have like a specific idea,
Yes,
like you got to go the fully custom route so you can really get that
exactly.
fully into the stationery.
Yes.
Um, in the process where you're kind of developing the look, maybe the color scheme a little bit, maybe the fonts, is there kind of like a revision process with that, and kind of what's that look like for couples?
Yeah, so that's my favorite part of the process is I'll send them two options based off of the things that we've discussed. Again, those design consultations are about an hour to an hour and a half long if it's semi-custom, and if it's fully custom, we're closer to 2 hours, and we're really digging in deep. So that way, when we do get down to the actual proofing process, I don't want it to feel overwhelming for couples. I
Yeah.
want them to be like, yes, this is what we talked about. I like this font over this font, change this here.
Like simple yeses and nos and not like big heavy design
Yes,
decisions.
yes. I feel like it's the last thing that they need with all of the other many decisions that they're making
Yeah.
during wedding planning process. So, like I said, I kind of give them that art direction back in their hands for a little bit, so they feel included in the process. It feels like part of them is shining through. And then we'll go back through, and usually within the next round, we've landed on something perfect. And then the rest of the suite will follow through if there's additional pieces that we need to create. But I'll just kind of present them with that main invitation piece first, again, to keep that stress down and not have so many options to think about off the bat.
Yeah. And there is, I mean, even if you just looked at like the paper choices,
Yeah.
like I'm sure you could list like 10 like that,
Yes.
and there's probably hundreds more.
So many colors. And it's like, what kind of sage green are you talking about? Like, here's our five different options.
Yeah.
So,
What would be helpful for couples to know? Maybe it's something paper related, maybe it's something printing related, but just like something that'd be helpful for them to kind of understand about the process. Or maybe there's a couple of things that you're thinking that like, hey, before you even like
yeah.
start trying to find someone or start trying to design anything, it's like if you know these couple things, you're gonna like kind of be off on the
Yeah.
right foot.
I think one thing is just this is probably the one sector of the industry where we're dependent on a third party to get a final product to its destination. So,
Gotcha.
meaning the postal service. So, there's so many variables that can go along with that, with postage, with, if they have a wax seal or, oh, I saw this ribbon tied on, and what does that actually translate to? So I think just knowing that the postal service has a big part in this part of the process, having someone like me that can help you navigate those things. I'm watching, prices on postage go up every 6 months. I'm telling you, well, this is over 2 ounces, so now you need another stamp.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one of the parts that if a couple is trying to DIY, they end up getting pretty tripped up on, not knowing the ins and outs of the postal system.
I mean, it could be just as something as simple like you said. It's a little overweight, and they
Yes.
put one stamp on instead of two, and then it's a whole big mess.
Yes, they're getting returned or never show up. So yeah, I would definitely say to just understand that a little bit more, to build in time.
Yeah.
It's certain times of year, especially right now, what we're heading into with holiday season. So if you're sending out save the dates for next May, June, is knowing that, well, it's probably going to take a little while longer.
Yeah.
Maybe don't do a plain white envelope. That's just going to get along stuck with the rest of holiday mail, and people open it up in January, February and go, oh, this
Oh
was
yeah.
actually a save the date or an invitation. I
Yeah.
should have opened it sooner. So,
How do you balance the design, creation, like the creativeness in all the
mm,
whole process? And a part of that, like most of the stuff that you're making also has to be functional.
yes, yes, it's so true. And I mean, no, most of us vendors know what a salad shoot is, but some
Yeah.
listeners might not understand what that is. But just kind of a day where we can all get together and showcase our work in different ways. And some of those shoots will involve things that might not be as practical for mailing purposes. So over the years, I've tried to steer away from that. So when they see something on my Instagram and they say, "Oh, I want that big bow. I want that, um, I don't know, big rhinestone thing on here," and I'll say, "Well, that's gonna cost you quite a bit to
Yeah.
mail through the system." So I try and keep that in mind. If couples are really stuck on something, I will do my best to kind of help them navigate that and say, okay, I know you wanted this type of ribbon, but if we use this type of knot, it's not going to be as cost, yeah, it's not going to cost as much. So I'll try and guide them through that.
Yeah, and I just feel like there's a huge difference sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes from what you see on Instagram,
Yeah.
what you see on Pinterest.
Yeah.
And to your point, like you could see the most elegant, whatever it might be, bow, design, backdrop,
Yeah.
envelope, and it's like that looks great for the flat lay. And maybe it's something that you could include in the flat lay materials
Yes.
to be photographed, but it's not going to necessarily be the thing that you want flying through the mail.
Yes, yes. Maybe it's not, and even budget wise too. They'll say,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah, I wanted X, Y, and Z," and I'll say, "Well, budget wise, this is not gonna work, but this is what you could do. Instead, um, I'm not here to have couples, take out another line of credit to get a wax seal and a ribbon and
right.
pay $5 for shipping a box or something." So I'm working within their budgets to
Yeah.
kind of make some of those wants happen.
Yeah. Is there any other part of the process that helps like the timelessness piece kind of hold true? So it's not just like, this trend, that trend, these like trendy colors, but it's like when you look back on the photos, the flat lay photos, or if you look back on just the process working
Mhm.
with you, it's like we got steered in a direction that really like at any point, man, that would still hold true in that
Yeah.
timeless kind of manner.
I think simplicity. I think sometimes couples will come and they'll have, 10 different colors in their color schemes. And I love them all. I love it all. But sometimes I'll just say, let's just reel it in and keep it simple. Your wedding day will speak for itself. This is setting the tone. And so when you do look back on something, having some of those more timeless colors, classic um, fonts, and things like that, that you're not going to say, this is definitely, you know, from 2006. Like,
Yeah.
I look back on my wedding colors with a little bit of regret. So,
Those poor colors.
yeah,
It is funny like how much the industry as a whole can kind of like push and pull things in different directions, especially as creatives. Like
yeah,
we're often pulling, like you said, inspiration from things. If our inspiration changes, like the
yes,
stuff that we put together might change a little bit. Um, do you think that there's like are there any sort of smaller details that couples are like overlooking that might really make a big difference in terms of their stationery, or even like something like you're talking about the installations for
yeah.
the seating charts and things like that?
I think day of print overall can tend to get overlooked. When we go through that process, it's usually a few weeks after the invitations have been mailed. They're starting to get some responses back. And then I think reality is starting to set in for couples. Like, this is happening, the day is getting closer, and then realizing, oh, well, I forgot that we need signage for the bar. I forgot that we need a sign, just a welcome sign. So I think that's a big thing that just gets overlooked. And it's important because it just takes that pressure off of your guests of figuring out, where do I go? What can I expect? What's for dinner? There's the menu right there. Some people say, well, it's just a buffet. Well, let's do a menu on the back of the table number so people know what they're eating. Your guests, it just helps with the overall guest experience. And I think kind of towards that last like 2 month stretch, couples are kind of exhausted from all the decision
Oh,
making,
for sure.
all the planning. Um, and so my job kind of to come back in and say, yeah, here's a few more decisions you have to make, but they're pretty easy because we've already done the design. Everything's going to feel cohesive now. This is the information that I need from you, and it'll just show up on your wedding day and make it so much easier.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I feel like, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, your part in all of this happens pretty early
Yeah.
for couples.
Yeah.
Like maybe maybe they have their photographer, maybe they've just gotten their engagement photos and now they're trying to think like, okay, now we got to send these out. Is that kind of like the time frame that a lot of couples are reaching out to start the process?
Yeah, usually it's about 12 to 18 months out from their wedding, especially if we're doing save the dates. So um, that just helps kind of take that pressure off of couples as they know, okay, I already had, even though maybe I don't even have my photos yet, but I know I'm going to have them done through Ashley and they're going out and I just have to get my guest list together,
Yeah.
gives them that extra time cushion. But yeah, 12 to 18 months is super ideal. And then we spend a lot of time together talking through the process, just because there's like three sections to the process,
Yeah.
basically.
When couples are thinking like they want a team that's going to work together super well, right?
Mhm.
And your side of it, from my vantage point, it seems like maybe more design heavy planners, um, maybe not coordinators as much. Some coordinators are kind of design heavy, but I feel like there's planners that are maybe kind of design heavy. Um, if they're kind of worried, like how do we know that our team's going to kind of work together and create a cohesive look? So it's not like, oh, there's Ashley's like table numbers that don't really match, like whatever they set up for the bar or something like that.
Yes, that I mean, it's happened. It's happened. And I think when we are working with planners, the more detail, the better earlier on. Sometimes what we end up designing helps then just navigate the rest of the planning process. It's kind of surprising. They'll go, yeah, we put those flowers on and I wasn't thinking about it, but now that made me choose all of these other things during,
Gotcha.
yeah, the process. So sometimes we're kind of spearheading it with what we've designed, and other times, yeah, the more on board everyone can be and just kind of have that overall vision that we're all locked in on, the more cohesive it's all going to be.
Yeah. I mean, we say it all the time on the podcast. Like, if if you're a vendor and you're not like a team player, like you
Yeah.
probably should find a different job.
Dude, yeah, find a new job.
Yeah.
Yeah, find a new industry. It's not a place for ego.
No.
It's about this couple, and I want every couple to feel like they're my only couple, that
Mm.
they're that special, they're getting that much attention because it is such a big day. They're spending so much time, so much money, and just to make them feel that much more special during the process.
Yeah, I love that because they're definitely not your only couple.
No.
But as much as you can make them feel that way in the way that you have your process, man, if you're a vendor listening, like you should definitely, I want to like take that and run with it because it's such a good concept.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe like, maybe in some ways, if you're a vendor listening, you might already be doing it, but what could you be doing even more so
Yeah.
to kind of embody that? Um, Going back to like the design process, are you, I'm just like sitting here thinking, I'm like, are you in like some Adobe product, like are you in Photoshop? Are you like, Are you pulling like where are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. So,
And
Adobe Illustrator,
you can
get
get like
nerdy.
techie. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
like curious.
I love it. I PC, sorry, Macs.
Oof, rough. I'll put
They
this
just
down.
don't love my printers as
Oh,
much.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, using the Adobe suite, Illustrator is meant for vector graphics, so that's pretty much what if I'm creating like say a line art drawing, I will take that into Photoshop first, clean that up a little bit, and then take that into Illustrator, vectorize, and then even if I have to use like InDesign, Adobe InDesign, that's more for like batch printing and things like that. But most of the time, I'm designing in Illustrator. Um, I will, because of what I do is so specialized and customized, I do not take illustrations from couples. Like sometimes in the past, they've come to me and said, "Oh, well, my aunt is an artist and she has this." And I'll just, kindly say, unfortunately, I'm not able to print other people's artwork.
Yeah,
Um, just quality control sort of thing.
yeah,
But yeah, with the advent of AI, I haven't used that much to be honest. It just seems a little too wonky right now. I know for photographers, it's probably a little bit easier. But with things like Canva popping onto the scene, I think more couples are taking some of the design part into their hands. So they're saying, "Oh, well, I have this pre-made design in Canva. Can you just print it for me?" Well, no.
yeah.
we,
Can you like unpack why though? Because I'm sure the
yeah.
couple sitting there like, I hear you Ashley, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate your art, but like, why?
Right. Yeah. So just one, quality control. Often those won't be maybe the best graphics. Maybe they're getting compressed as they're being sent on. And then as me, I'm just responsible for the end result.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's not up to their standards, then it's not up to
It
mine.
could, guys, it's as simple as texting a photo to someone else, and it
Yeah.
literally cuts the quality.
Yep.
Do it with my videos all the time. I have to airdrop everything
Yes. Yeah,
because it just
exactly.
doesn't,
It's not the same as me creating it on those programs that yeah, we pay a lot of money to subscribe to and
unfortunately.
unfortunately,
Adobe.
yes, killing us Adobe. Sponsor this podcast now.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
sure. Honeybook, Adobe,
Yes.
all the people.
All the people.
So there's a quality control. Is there other things outside of quality control that that kind of answer that why?
Yeah, and I think it kind of takes away that process part that we've spent time on getting to know one another. And I don't just want to be your print shop.
No.
I want to be here for you, full stop, as a vendor who truly cares about you as a couple, who cares about the quality of your day and the process leading up to that day. So now there are many places where you can get things like that printed, um, good and bad. But yeah, just want to be there for couples, from start to finish, and just instead of coming in halfway through or at the tail end of a process.
Yeah, not just like a random designer just making like paper products for a
Right,
couple.
right. And to be honest, like, unfortunately, there are some things in the industry where designs are stolen. It
Mm,
could be, and it has happened where, oh, I did already talk to this designer. They started this process, but, we parted ways for whatever reason. And now I'm dealing with copyright issues, other
yeah.
people's artwork. So that's just not an avenue that, we want to be spending
Y-
time on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely don't want to be doing that.
No.
Is there a way that couples can kind of get their invitation stuff? I'm say stuff because there's just a lot of pieces, right?
I
So
don't
I
hold it against you.
apologize.
Yeah.
The invitation suite, everything that's involved with the invitations to really flow nicely. So like, I'm just thinking of like the design mindset of like they get the invitation in the mail, the guest does, and then when they come, it's just like a continuation
Yeah,
for the day of products.
definitely.
Is there like thought process behind that? I know there is, but like, what is the thought process?
Yeah, it's that cohesiveness. I want it. Sometimes you can tell when you go to a wedding and you kind of see this looks like it's from this Etsy shop or this is from this hand me down wedding shop or something that you might have bought on Facebook Marketplace or something. But kind of having those similar, fonts, the designs that we've already chosen, um, and just using them in new and unique ways that it still feels like it's part of what we started with. And I love that part because it goes back to even the save the date, where maybe we pulled a color, maybe we started a custom monogram or crest or something, and that's carried through the whole thing. And it just feels like every step of the way, something was thought out, even though it might be a simple sign.
Yeah. Yeah, because to everyone that's there, it's just like, "Oh, it's a sign."
Right.
But there's a huge value in that cohesiveness,
Yeah.
it seems like.
Yeah, definitely. It just streamlines everything. So when we're going through that day of print process, we're going through each and every part of the day. So starting at their ceremony, guests are walking up. Well, they're going to see a welcome sign. Should they have some programs? What does your ceremony look like? Is this a church ceremony where it's going to be an hour long and maybe people aren't familiar with some of the traditions that are happening? We need to explain those. I've done programs where we've had like 3 languages on them, and
Yeah.
explaining that, and that's all part of the guest experience. You want them to feel welcomed, you want them to feel like they're here to celebrate you.
Yeah. I'm curious if you could just give us, like, what is your number 1 stationary tip for couples?
Oh man.
Like, the top tip. Like, what's the most important thing that you'd want couples to kinda take away from all of this?
Oh, top tip. A big one, I think, is just your guest list. I think that is just, it's such a struggle to get addresses. It's a struggle to know how to address people. But one thing I do is I help couples set up with that. So they have a guide to help them out. They have a Google Doc that it's continuously going. And once they have it, they're going to have it forever. They're going to have it to send their thank you cards. They're going to have it to send
I
their
will
Christmas cards.
I will say we still use ours to send
See?
Christmas cards.
Yeah, yeah. So as difficult as it is, as time consuming as it is, just keep trudging through the
Yeah.
process, and one day you just won't have to do it again. So,
Yeah, so I mentioned this a little earlier in the podcast, but your finished stationery product, the ones that are sent, are usually being photographed in some sort of flat lay.
yeah.
It could be a full blown thing. It could be, maybe I want to get your take on flat lays too, but it could be this like kind of thrown together on whatever's there kind of thing. Before we jump into uh, your thoughts on actually putting the flat lays together, because I know you have some thoughts on that. How do you feel about this new kind of like thing that's popping up where it's like we're doing a flat lay, but we're not bringing anything? We're just like throwing it on, I don't know, like this floor. We
Right.
just throw it on the floor or
Yeah.
throw it on this rug because it kind of matches.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oof. I mean, it's all about the couple at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If that's something that is important to them and it helps tell their story, then I'm all about it. From a stationer's perspective,
Uh,
do I wish that sometimes there could be a few more minutes just to kind of put every piece out, so it's like it feels thoughtful,
yeah.
because these are things that the couple's chosen. Now, I know not every couple, not every invitation is a custom or semi-custom that they've worked with a stationer, but they still thought about it. They still picked that, from the many, many things online or whatever the circumstance was. So taking the time to lay out the details. Those are all the things that brought this couple to that day. So it is kind of one of those things I do have some opinions on. I do help photographers learn how to do flat lays for a wedding day. I was a second shooter myself
Oh,
many
cool. I didn't
moons
know
ago.
that.
Yeah. So I get it. I know how busy, I know how stressful wedding days are.
Yeah.
You're sweating, you're trying to find lighting, and
Yep.
you've got like 20 pieces of paper that you don't know what to do with. So I've come up with a guide to kind of help photographers on that wedding day do something quick, but also look beautiful and classic. And um, again, that flat lay encompasses almost all of the vendors, and it's just a way that even though photographers aren't necessarily working, for the stationer, they're working for the couple. It's a great way to just be that team, have that team mentality that we were talking about earlier. Like
Yeah.
everyone's in this together.
Yeah, I mean, because in that flat lay, you really could be highlighting venue. Obviously, the photographers highlighting themselves a little
Yeah.
bit. The couple's personalities in there,
Yeah.
stationer,
Jewelry, shoes,
flowers. Yep.
flowers. Yeah. It's like so many people are incorporated into
So
that.
you are a fan of the traditional flat lay.
Very much a fan.
So I think, and I may be just speaking from a videographer's perspective, but it seems like maybe some of the like thrown together flat lays are coming out of this idea of like uh this big elaborate setup isn't maybe serving the couples as much as it would be serving like
Right.
us
Right.
as the creatives. um but if there were like some in between,
Yeah.
right, where you're like, you kind of said it, just do a little bit more intentional,
Yes.
what would be your like top one or two things that you're like, if you could be in the ear of the photographer in that
Yeah.
moment and you're like, hey,
Just
adjust it this way, or
yeah.
put this here, put that there, or angle it this way, or get this type of light, or like, what would the top tip be?
My top tip is that flat lays are not flat. I
Okay.
know, it's like mind blown. What? Flat lays are not flat. So adding dimension. So picking certain pieces and choosing to elevate them. Maybe it's the back of your lens cap or your phone. I use acrylic risers. It's gonna automatically, literally elevate your design, but also just make it just look so much more cohesive. And it draws attention to certain pieces, say the actual invitation, or maybe they had a beautiful illustration and you want to showcase that. Finding those most important pieces, letting those shine through, and the others just kind of be backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does seem like just a little bit of intentionality for your sake would go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I love when the flat lay is all put together because it looks really nice, and
Yeah.
generally we don't have to do any work for it. Appreciate you photographers.
Right?
Um, but I do understand, like, if it's taking away from the couple and their day and the experience that they're having, and they don't love it, then like maybe don't spend all day.
Exactly.
But it sounds like
Yep.
from what you're saying, it's like elevate a couple things,
Yep.
take just a little bit of a second,
Yeah.
even if it's just, for that vendor, the stationary vendor who kind of thrives off of those photos would be
Yeah.
probably helpful for you guys.
Be helpful. Yeah.
Um, I love that tip. Is there a kind of parting tip? Maybe it's not even like stationary related, but just for couples as they're kind of like in this big planning stage of life change, and kind of like making this commitment to each other.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time planning. But I try and encourage my couples to spend more time planning for their marriage than their wedding day. The wedding day is one day, and you do spend a lot of time, but your marriage is day in and day out. So I encourage my couples to go on dates where they don't mention the word wedding, and they're just talking about the future. They're talking, about how compatible they are, about the things that they're going to face together. How are they going to face them together? Um, and just encourage them through that. The wedding day is kind of where it all starts, and then you have forever together.
Yeah, that's so fun. And I love the like, even from the stationary,
Yeah.
like, I love the mindset. And I'm finding like the good wedding vendors have that mindset where it's
Mm,
like, it's not just a wedding film, like,
yeah.
or it's not just wedding photos. It's an experience and intentionality for our couples
Mhm.
to really be focused on the right things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always say this all the time. It's like that commitment that you guys are making. It's so important and
Yeah.
so valuable. It just like it shapes the way that we capture things as
Yeah.
videographers. And
Definitely.
I think there's more to it than like, it's not like don't think of yourself as just a stationery or
Yeah.
just a photographer or
Yeah.
just a planner. Like you're walking these couples through a huge life commitment.
Yeah.
And we want them to be like, we want them to enjoy themselves,
Yeah.
but also to experience the day in its fullness and then be excited and pumped for what's
Yeah.
to come.
Exactly.
That's so fun. Ashley,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on. This conversation has been
Thank you.
so, so good.
Thank you. Thank you for doing all this, for shining a light on this community, for bringing vendors together and helping couples through their process. You guys are
Well, I
awesome.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's been a dream of mine to have this podcast go, and yeah, it's just been so fun to connect with all these different vendors, including yourself. And I know we were trying for so long to get you on, and we have you on now, and it was just such a good
Yeah.
conversation. Where can people find and follow along with what you're doing with RSVP Love?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, which is rsvp-love.com. There's a little RSVP tab up at the corner, and you can fill out some information. Best give me an overall idea of what your day is looking like. And then Instagram is rsvp_love.
A little bit of a difference
Little bit of
there.
a
If you guys catch
difference.
that. We'll get those links in the description so people,
Awesome.
if you're a link clicker, you can click on the link down there.
There
So,
you go.
what kind of things do you have coming up that you're excited about?
Well, speaking of flat lays that we were talking about earlier, I love just coaching and helping photographers with that. So that'll be happening coming up. Just leading a one-on-one styling sessions. Those are always available for photographers or videographers, planners, or other stationers as well.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being
Thank you
on.
so much, James.
Everyone that has been listening and you've made it this far, I appreciate you because it's just so fun to be doing this. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so you see, maybe hit the notification bell. I don't know if that's still a thing. And give this video a like. Share it with all of your friends. Maybe leave a comment down below if you have any questions for myself or for Ashley.
Yeah.
It'd be so fun. If you're listening on a podcasting app, what's up? How's it going? Hopefully this episode's been super valuable for you to listen to, maybe on your drive or your walk or your workout. If you're listening on a podcast app, Spotify, Apple Pod, it would be amazing. It'd be so helpful if you could leave us a review. Just let us know what you're thinking of the show. And that's all for this episode. And we'll catch you next time on the preferred list.
Thank you.